What's up, YouTube? Clear Outside, episode 8, and man, this is a big one. We've got a lot to unpack on this, so I'm going to try to get right to it. Anybody that knows me knows I love a good argument, so here we go. ESPN came out with a story yesterday, the controversial rise of box breaks, and it basically addresses card breaking and box breaking as gambling, and they've talked to apparently different attorneys, legal counsel, who all agree that box breaking and breaking cards with groups is gambling. They say all their legal advisors agree that it is gambling. So here's my 2 cents on this, and it's not just because I'm a breaker. Although I am a breaker, this hits to the core, the fabric of our hobby, though. Okay, card collecting is gambling. Let that sink in for a second, and let me say it one more time for the people in the back that didn't hear me. Card collecting is gambling. If you have ever opened a box of cards, hobby or retail, blaster, a repack, doesn't matter. If you've ever opened a box of sports cards and you didn't know for sure what was in that package, then guess what? That's gambling. Think about it. It's just like buying a scratch-off lottery ticket. I explained this in my TikTok response to somebody on TikTok just a little bit ago. It's the exact same equivalent as buying a scratch-off lottery ticket. You can buy a box of, let's say, hobby, let's say NFL football Phoenix hobby box. Probably going to run you $250 to $300, right? That's a pretty big gamble, isn't it? I think it is. I don't have $300 just laying around to just throw at boxes nonstop. Is there any guarantee on that box that tells you you're going to get your money back? No, there isn't. Is there any guarantee on that box anywhere that you're going to get anything of value? Nope. Has anybody ever opened a box of cards where you were supposed to get one autograph in the box for your $300 and you got a redemption? Yep. Anybody ever opened a box of cards where it said you were supposed to get 4 hits per box on average, and you got 3 or 2? Yep. Guess what? That's all gambling. The attack on box breakers is absolutely ridiculous when it comes to the gambling angle. Now, if you don't like breaking, that's fine. If you don't like box breakers or card breakers or group breaks or anything like that, that's fine. And I can totally relate and totally agree that there are some breakers who are detrimental to the hobby, and that is a fact. The people that are trying to get rich off of box breaking and card breaking is absurd. People think that it's a get-rich-quick thing, and it's not. And people see other people doing it and think, oh, I can do that. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. But what people typically fail to realize is all the amount of time and effort that goes into that, the care that most breakers, generally speaking, put into handling the cards, shipping the cards, and everything else that goes into the hobby. So while, to address ESPN's story that they so lovely decided to share yesterday, yes. Is box breaking and group breaks gambling? Of course it is. Duh. But so is opening a box of cards. I've got 15 boxes of Donruss NASCAR hobby boxes sitting over there. I've got 4 boxes of Certified and a box of Victory Lane on my table. And not one of those boxes has a guarantee of anything. Every one of those boxes is like a scratch-off lottery ticket. And if you need a little bit more clarification or a little bit better understanding of what I mean when I say it's like a scratch-off lottery ticket, Let me dive a little deeper into the explanation. If you open for example, WWE Revolution, I just opened 2 boxes myself. I can personally relate to this. They cost me about $125 per box. So I spent $250 for 2 boxes of cards. It's a lot of money. I got one of the better cards that you can get out of the product in those 2 boxes, which is called a Kaboom. It's really well known in the sports card world. I got a Bray Wyatt Kaboom. And although Bray Wyatt's not the biggest name in WWE wrestling, he is a well-known name and a collectible wrestler nonetheless. Those cards were selling for on eBay the night that I pulled the card somewhere in the $400 to $500 range. They've come down a bit. I would probably place the value of that card somewhere in the $250 range currently. And I think it'll probably stay there for a while. So, did I get my money back? Yes. What's the biggest card, the best card you could potentially get out of the product? Well, you could get The Rock Kaboom. Okay? Probably $1,000, $1,500. But what's the worst that you could do? Well, you could not get a Kaboom. You could also not get an autograph. The best card that you might get in your box might be a card numbered to 49 of somebody like Mustafa Ali, who most people have never heard of. And you might have spent $125 and gotten $20 worth of cards by the time it was said and done. So that's what I mean by scratch-off lottery ticket. That's exactly what opening cards is. For people to now, and I've seen this not just ESPN, but I've seen some other people, talking heads in the industry. Apparently, there's a big thing with Fanatics saying that that hobby shops aren't going to be able to resell boxes to other stores or other places. Well, Fanatics isn't going to be able to regulate. There's no way they're going to control. If a card shop, if your LCS gets 3 cases of cards in, they don't have any way, and they're not going to have any way to monitor who they sold all of their boxes to. It's not going to happen. There's no way. So for them to think that Fanatics is going to end breaking, that's not going to happen. And for people to attack box breakers and card breakers, group breakers in general, saying it's gambling, of course it's gambling. Duh. But like I said, so is opening a box of cards. If you've never heard my story about National Treasures Racing, let me enlighten you for a second. It'll take a minute to unpack this story, but 2021, National Treasures Racing comes out. I had 3 cases of it on release day. A case was going for about $1,650. I had done really well with my break group, and I had saved up a good bit of money. And I was sitting there on release night staring at a case of National Treasures, and I thought, I'm going to open that case. I may never, ever, ever in my life have the money or be able to afford to do this again. So I'm going to do it once to say I've been able to do it, and I'm going to live with the consequences. Well, guess what? I got absolutely obliterated. And you can go back and watch the videos. I've talked about this many, many times, and you can go back and see the videos in the Facebook group. It's been a long time now, but out of a $1,700 box of cards, I think it was $1,650 is what I paid for the case. But out of $1,650, the best card I got was an autographed Jeff Gordon card, which probably is worth about $100 today. And total, I might have gotten $400 to $500 worth of cards. So I lost well over $1,000 in one transaction opening one case of cards. If that's not the epitome of gambling, and it wasn't a breaker that did that. It wasn't somebody that, asked me to get into a card break or a group break, or I I bought the case. I sat here by myself and opened the case and took one on the chin. And it's the exact same thing as buying a scratch-off lottery ticket. Whether you spend $1, $2, $5, $20, breaks are the exact same way. There's different price points. You can decide how much you want to spend on a break, and you deal with the consequences. Is it gambling? Yep, to a degree, it most certainly is. Is that one of the problems, or is that one of the things in our world where we really need to focus our attention and crack down? Absolutely not. There is no reason for people to be attacking card breakers and group breakers and box breakers about gambling. We have so many bigger problems in this world. And as I explained on TikTok, if you're going to come after the group breakers and the card breakers and the box breakers about gambling, then you better start with going after Panini, Topps, Fanatics, Upper Deck, and all the other companies that produce these cards. Because if it's gambling, they need to put a guarantee on the box of exactly what's inside. And what I mean by that is when I buy a $75 box of Donruss Racing, I want to know that that box has a Kyle Larson autograph in it or a Joey Logano 101 in it. I want to know what I'm getting. Because if I don't know what I'm getting, that's gambling. And if you really want to go one step further and be a little bit more kooky with this, you know, my daughter collects these little Disney figurines. They're about this tall. They cost you about $20 for a box, and you get 5 or 6 of them in a box. Same thing. There's no guarantee what you're getting in that box. It's random, just like sports cards. So, isn't that like gambling? Aren't we teaching kids to gamble? I think we are. So, like I said, don't come at the box breakers, the card breakers, the group breakers. I love a good argument. And in this case, ESPN and all these other talking heads that are attacking the breakers, you're barking up the wrong tree. I'm telling you, there is no reason to be attacking the breakers when the manufacturer is where your problem is. If you've got an issue with what's coming out, you need to talk to the manufacturers. And it just absolutely blows my mind how people cannot see the similarities. I mean, when I know I've said this multiple times already, but it's exactly like buying a scratch-off lottery, or any lottery ticket for that matter. It's exactly like buying a lottery ticket. You know, a couple of years ago when football was insane, or when basketball, let's think back for a second. Let's go one step further for a second. Let's go back in time to about a year and a half ago when the LeBron James, Steph Curry, I forget who else, Triple Logo Man 101 was in play. In what was it, Flawless or Immaculate, one of those. It's like a $10,000 box of cards, right? That's gambling to me, opening a box of cards for $10,000 and hoping and praying that you're going to get this one card, because if you don't, pretty much none of the other cards are worth that kind of money. And that's well documented. I mean, Ken Golden ended up consigning the card, and, you know, go back and look at his documentary and his docuseries on it. How much money did he and the people he's associated with spend on opening boxes and cases trying to find this card? And how much money did they lose? It's gambling at its purest from the very beginning. The moment you buy a box of cards, it's a gamble. It doesn't matter whether what the contents of those cards, whether it's cut up into 32 teams, whether it's cut up into 85 drivers, whether it's split into 8 football divisions, doesn't really make a difference. It's gambling. It's not just the breakers, it's the manufacturers and the lack of guarantees in the product. So just let that sink in for a second. It's gambling, but it's all gambling. Sports cards are gambling, period. So if we have a problem with breakers, We have a problem with sports cards in general. Let that sink in and think about that for the next week, 10 days, whatever it might be. But I would encourage you to really, address these people, address ESPN and everybody else that's now trying to, it feels like they're trying to kind of attack the hobby in a way. And I don't get it. Out of all the things in the world, this is the one thing that they want to harp on. Doesn't make sense. Like I said, for one more time, for the people in the back that didn't hear it, sports cards are gambling. Doesn't matter if it's a box break, a group break, a case break, or if you bought a box at Target while you were in the checkout line, it's a gamble. You might pull a card in a box that's worth $1, or you might pull a card that's worth $100,000. And that's gambling at its purest definition.